Hello there. In addition to all the problems that the British Prime Minister has, there is the bitter dispute over the Brexit rules for Northern Ireland, and makes an EU compromise more difficult. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who has only been in office for 100 days, sees himself under pressure on all fronts, although it's double as much as Liz Truss, by the way. Depressing economic forecasts, the escalation of bitter labour disputes, and new scandals at the highest ministerial level are bothering him. Recently, his popularity ratings have hit an all-time low. And now Sunak has to fear that the hardliners in his faction will refuse to follow him and could bring him down because of Brexit, as they did with Theresa May in 2019. Conservative commentators are also speculating that a sufficiently large segment of the faction that wants Boris Johnson back at the head of the Tory may end up nabbing Sunak on the Northern Ireland Protocol. This protocol, part of the Brexit agreement with Brussels, regulates, among other things, the flow of goods from England, Wales, and Scotland to the north of the Emerald Isle. The goods in question are subject to special checks when they arrive there because, according to the Brexit Treaty, Northern Ireland still follows the guidelines of the EU Customs Union and Internal Market. With this solution, the unhindered movement of goods in Ireland itself was secured at the time. That means the aim was to prevent a new EU external border between the north and the south of the Irish island. But the largest unionist party in Northern Ireland, the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, sees the Northern Ireland Protocol as an unacceptable separation of that region from the rest of the UK. In protest against the protocol, they have been boycotting Northern Ireland's parliament and any formation of a government since May last year. They have made it a condition of their return to self-government that Northern Ireland be treated in the same way as the rest of the kingdom, so they want to harm Northern Ireland. Curiously, it was Boris Johnson who negotiated and signed the Northern Ireland Protocol, although he had assured unionists at the time there would be no border checks, and most recently threatened the EU that he would ignore the protocol if Brussels did not go along with London's ideas of the practical implementation. In contrast, since taking office last October, Prime Minister Sunak has avoided threatening gestures and sought to negotiate a joint solution with the EU to minimize border checks and diffuse other issues. London's conservative newspaper The Times reported this week that Sunak had reached a virtual compromise agreement with Brussels. According to The Times information from government circles, flows of goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland are to be monitored electronically by the EU together with London in the future, and only goods intended for onward transport to Ireland, that means to the EU, are subject to special checks. Since the publication of these ideas, both sides have emphatically denied that they have yet achieved a breakthrough. You might remember my video, I really doubted this achievement. And unionists and Tory hardliners, for their part, have dismissed the Times information as a mere government test balloon and scrapped the proposals. The DUP continues to demand a complete abandonment of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Yeah, don't understand politics. The group of Brexit fundamentalists in the Conservative House of Commons, or the House of Commons in the Conservative Party, which is likely to comprise about 50 MPs, is also opposed to any compromise that would impair their national sovereignty. This group of parliamentarians deeply distrusts Sunak and backs Boris Johnson in principle, from whom they hope an intransigent course towards the EU. Johnson's fan club wants Sunak out of office, as prominent Tory commentator Ian Martin, himself a Brexit supporter, put it these days. And the group is big enough to overthrow another prime minister, he says. And Sunak is in a difficult situation. He plans to travel to Washington shortly and is expecting the US president to pay a return visit in early April to mark the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. Oh. Joe Biden has made it clear that he only wants to come if London has reached an agreement in advance with Brussels on the protocol. And so we definitely have some fun time ahead of us. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.